Hello, all, and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls, where today we are tackling the 100cc All Cup Tour Grand Prix of Mario Kart Double Dash. Now, for those that know, or for those that may require a refresher, the All Cup Tour is effectively a one off, end to end race where every single track in all of Mario Kart Double Dash is thrown into a single cup for optimal playtime. Now, this is one of my favorite cups in the Mario Kart franchise. In general, the very concept of being able to go from one end to the other, playing through the entire game, everything it has to offer in one go, is inherent to I suppose, the idea of loving speedruns, of loving doing games quickly. But more than that, it comes down to a testament that Mario Kart Double Dash's game design and, in general, its game feel is second to none in the Mario Kart franchise. And I want to kind of poke at this for a couple moments. Now, for me, the two games that most easily compare to Double Dash are Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 8. These two games are everything that Mario Kart Double Dash wanted to be and somehow tried to make it more. Adding more tracks, more characters, more karts, more everything. It was supposed to revolutionize the kart racer as a whole. And Mario Kart Wii is the one that I'm going to point at here. Because Wii had 32 tracks. Now, because of that 32 tracks, my younger brother and I used to attempt constantly to beat all 32 tracks one after another, usually getting stopped about 2/3 the way through at around race number 20-ish, just because life happened. It was hard to put aside what was effectively 2 hours for just Mario Kart. And while sure, a lot of people could say that 2 hours for just Mario Kart is not much at all. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm a little flat. While some might say 2 hours for Mario Kart isn't all that much at all, I want to make the statement that Mario Kart Wii's kart and track design left a lot to be desired at times. And looking at some like, what is it, Koopa Troopa Beach, being a track that was designed to be very close-minded, very quick and easy as a remake of an NES track. Trying to put that on the same pedestal that you would put tracks like DK Mountain or their version of Rainbow Road and Bowser's Castle, it wasn't feasible. And in my mind, that's part of what made the All Cup Tour of Mario Kart Wii so devastatingly hard to complete, was that in the end, not only was it twice the length of the All Cup Tour from Double Dash, but it ended up being so much more of an investment of energy than any of the tracks in Double Dash ever were. And again, this is going to be a testament to Double Dash. The fact that we can go end to end and play all 16 tracks and not feel like it's becoming a drag, like it's slowing down, like you're not actually enjoying each and every track, is something to be admired in how this game feels as a whole. But let's go a step further, shall we? What would Mario Kart 8 All Cup Tour look like? Well, it really depends on which version you're looking at. If you're looking at the original Mario Kart 8 for the Nintendo Wii U, you have 32 tracks. 32 tracks, which I personally feel felt better than the original 32 of Mario Kart Wii. This is because in many cases, Mario Kart 8 tried to take what was there and improve upon it in ways that made each track feel more unique. Let's start there. Secondly, if you're looking at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the original version of Deluxe, you have 48 tracks. Now you're adding on another roughly hour worth of playtime. So it's not just a 2-hour investment, it's 3. But let's take it so much further. Let's also add the Booster Course Pass for a 6-hour long trudge through all of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Ultimately, this 96 course monstrosity could be seen as one of the greatest Mario Kart feats ever imaginable, or it could be seen as one of the most difficult to get into, one of the hardest to actually sit through and play all 96 tracks. That's the thing. I feel as though part of what makes this particular All Cup Tour feel half as good as it does is because the expectations of the All Cup Tour at this point in time was about an hour worth of investment. It was refined, well put together, brand new tracks ready to go for your playing pleasure. You and a friend could get together, have a couple of slushies, and just enjoy company, bad talking one another as you go about playing your game. Because why not? What did you have to lose in those days? But the moment that you start getting into the 2, the 3, and 6-hour versions, I'm using the ones that I come to mind in that regard, simply because these extended, longer versions of what an All Cup Tour could have been with other games ends up showcasing a lot of flaws in making games bigger than they already were. Now, to put it in a way that, to put it bluntly, every single track in Mario Kart Double Dash is a track that I would like to play on at any point in time. Even the tracks I consider the weakest in the entire game, those being like Dry Desert, for example, end up being more entertaining on an aggregate basis than most or than a large portion of the tracks in later games. This isn't me bad-mouthing later games. This is me saying Mario Kart Double Dash does it well. Woohoo! Start time! I suppose I should refine the statement of the rules. The statement of the rules was made back in 50cc, I want to say about 6 months ago. And the rules are as follows. I can collect item boxes. I cannot intentionally throw or drop any item that comes up through said item boxes. But if I were to, let's say, get a triple shell with our dear friend Mr. Turtle here, and get hit by a lightning bolt that causes me to drop them all, that's not me intentionally dropping or using the item. Only intentionally throwing the item is considered intentionally throwing the item. And thus, if I were to, let's say, run into a star or a banana or mushroom anywhere on the track, well, that's just the fact of there was a nanner on the track, there was a star on the track, and thus, not a problem for me in this particular run. Now, overall, this run has taught me a few things. Some that might seem a little bit out of sorts. The first is that this batch of tracks is actually well put together. Initially, I thought that Double Dash had a questionable batch, especially with the more slidey physics that came with it after getting used to Mario Kart 8. But the more I played it, the more I came to like playing Double Dash over other games. And part of it comes down to I have the option. So, a little bit about how things go in my particular world. I have a lot of people that I play Mario Kart, Smash Bros, and various games with. Sometimes, notably Mario Kart, I am effectively forced to not use items in order to make sure that the other players in my household enjoy playing the game with me. And this is something that I personally put on myself to make sure that it's not a one-sided thing, that I'm not enjoying something that nobody else is. But the thing with Double Dash is this challenge has taught me that theoretically I could have done that a long time ago. That there was always room for improvement and room to make the game different, more unique. And also taught me that what's really necessary to make a good racer is the track itself. The problem is that Mario Kart in general has, I suppose, three basic rules or statements that it makes. The first is that every track has to be a okay track on its own. This, in the case of Double Dash, means every track on its own without items is perfectly fine. Enjoyable 3-lap tracks. Or 7-lap in the case of, one course, or 2 laps in the case of another. But the other side of it is items are there to enhance the gameplay. They're not there specifically for the game to be fun. And so for me, having always been the type of person who sat in the driver's seat, so to speak, it never really dawned on me just how much I relied on items in later games. So coming back through and playing Double Dash and forcing myself to beat every single cup, one after another, starting at 50cc, I think it was Mushroom Cup, or it might have been Star Cup or something. But starting all the way back at 50cc and working through everything, one track after another without using a single item, it was both empowering, but it was also kind of telling that every track had something more to give. Take Sherbet Land with its more slidey physics. Sure, most players would say that the slidey physics make it a harder track than average, but as a result of the slidey, slippery, messy physics of this track, it actually becomes a highlight of the Star Cup in general because it's one of the few tracks that plays significantly different than the other tracks in the game. Anyways, we are now 5 races down, 11 to go. And why not start Mushroom Bridge, track number 6, right away? The other highlights of each, I suppose, series of tracks come from what I personally consider to be, I suppose, more mild tracks, if that makes sense. Every single track has something it does well. Every single track has something it does differently. But if you take something like the Mushroom Cup, you have Luigi Circuit, which is admittedly kind of a meh course as far as this overall aggregate is. It's one of the weaker ones. Fun, unique to have traffic going in both directions and nearly colliding with one another. And in many cases, actually colliding with one another. But then you have Mushroom Bridge. And Mushroom Bridge is another totally fine course. At least I think this one's Mushroom Course. No, this one's Flower Cup, I think. Yeah, point being, I'm losing track of my everything here. You end up with 3 of the 4 tracks of the Mushroom Cup feeling a little bit lackluster. And that's not a fault of the game. More so, it's the fact that the Mushroom Cup of Double Dash had a more straightforward design, something that was meant to ease the player in to the game as a whole. And so the result of this 4 tracks fitting together so well, or fitting together with that mindset, is that it often ends up feeling like the weakest or the ones that most players wouldn't want to get involved in too often. In my mind, it makes the most sense to practice those ones first. See, how do I want to word this? I feel as though many individuals have heard of Silvaria and Inferno Fox, 2 other players that have shown up as a duo within this channel as a whole. And Silvaria and Inferno Fox both have this very unique situation where they're both younger, less experienced players. And yet they're both trying to prove themselves, not just to themselves, but to each other. And one thing that comes up is that they each try to find something, a niche that they're really good at. Inferno Fox found Smash Bros. And started really practicing trying to find ways to beat me. Silvaria gravitated more towards Mario Kart. And all things considered, both players found something, a niche that fit them. But what I like about this particular aspect is that I get to see 2 players try to learn a new game from scratch. Something that I played for years upon years, to the point where I don't remember what it was like playing Mario Kart Double Dash for the first time. And that's a really sad thing to state, but I don't. When I first started playing it, I was usually relegated to player 2 sitting in the passenger seat. And being involved, but being told that half the toolkit that I'm supposed to have is inaccessible, just on the merit of my cousin, who was the driver, didn't feel comfortable handling the jerking, jostling movement of the cart. And I remember that I was the first person to beat the 100cc Star Cup, something that up until the point in time that it was done for our duo, because we didn't have a memory card, we'd play the same 50cc courses on a regular basis, just not really putting too much stock in it. After that point, it's all a blank to me. And that's a really disappointing thing to have to say. But seeing Silvaria and Inferno immediately have this adversely negative reaction to Wario's Coliseum because it was such a complex course that they weren't expecting it, kind of made me giggle a little bit, because Wario's Coliseum is one of my favorites. It's one of those courses that has frequently been an enjoyable one to drive on for the entire game, for the entire course, simply because of how complex it became. So there is a place for both incredibly complex and more basic or simplistic courses in every track pack. And I feel like we as players often forget that there's more to game design than making something needlessly complex or needlessly basic or simplistic. There is room for both in all circumstances. Anywho, that's my 2 cents on it, as in general, it's something that is hard to get behind and hard to really reiterate on to. But I can also say that the number of tracks that those 2 really didn't get behind kind of confused me. The pair of them were very much loved Mario Kart as a whole. They were both very involved in the game, but I think that both of them also had a more... They were too used to Mario Kart 8 that I don't believe that they came at it with the same mindset that I did. And let me be clear, I know I have some pretty thick nostalgia glasses for Mario Kart Double Dash. But it was interesting seeing that these two that I've been playing against for now, give or take 6 years, don't have that nostalgia for these courses. They've seen a few of them, like Waluigi Stadium, but they didn't really have the same level of love and appreciation for the game that I grew up with. And this is a really weird statement to make, as I know nostalgia is a thing, but I didn't realize just how much it affects an individual, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Because, let's be real, a lot of us, especially my age, now in their 30s, playing games tend to gravitate towards PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Nintendo 64, GameCube era games. Xbox and Xbox 360 being another batch. This is what we lived on. This is what we played growing up. And so, while a lot of us will continue to play new games, new systems, and try to push the boundaries of what each new game has, in general, we also have we're very nostalgic for the games that we grew up with. That there are players that will say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that, oh, this game is the one that I would play over this one. People would play Mario Kart Double Dash over 8, or Ocarina of Time over Twilight Princess. This is a normal reaction that people tend to have when it comes to new games and newer gaming as a general statement. We end up getting caught up in our own habits. Oh, my box just flew over the edge. That's sad. But maybe I'm overthinking things. I have a pretty good habit of that. Alright, so we have Koopa Troopa with his nephew there. Wario with a Bob-omb, meaning that this cart specifically has not one, not two, but 4 separate people in it. Gotta say, that's pretty impressive. The only time I think I've seen more is when it was the 2 Koopas, one with the red shell special and one with the green shell special, for a total of 8 in one cart. Anywho, we are over halfway. And we are tackling Yoshi Circuit. Yoshi Circuit, I think I mentioned at one point, is one of those courses that, growing up, I didn't like. Now, part of it was to do with kind of how wild and wacky the track actually was. Part of it had to do with the fact that I couldn't wrap my head around a track being Yoshi-shaped. To me, that looked weird. It didn't make sense. And in contrast, that's probably exactly what they were going for, was something a little bit more on the weird side. Something that was meant to not make as much sense. And I should have been paying more attention to that. Anywho, be that as it may, we have the Yoshi track. And Yoshi's Island, or Yoshi's Circuit, is one that actually has a lot of depth to it despite its relative simplicity. Generally speaking, we have varying types of turns, from wider from wider turns to hairpin turns. You have the mogul style back and forth type turns. You have straightaways. You have item play. And all of this ties in together, one item to the next. But what makes this course, I think, more mechanically in-depth than any of that, is the fact that this specific course has at least 3 to 4 shortcuts, most of which require a mushroom of some variety. But around the feet, you can sneak in behind the piranha plants, underneath Yoshi's arm to get to the nose portion of the tunnel, behind Yoshi's eye before you hit the scaly parts. There's another one that'll bypass the back and forth scales and spit you out right at the base of Yoshi's neck. You know, in hindsight, this really sounds kind of morbid when I say it like that. Anyways, the point being is that each of these unique circumstances that come up throughout Yoshi's circuit are all tied in and make this track more unique and memorable for it. And in the end, actually is one of the tracks that I now appreciate the most, just because it is so unique, because they took the time to make a course that not only made sense, but also that they made a course that showcased there's more to the race course itself than just the race or than what's on the page. Having those secrets that you have to jump off the track to find are incredibly difficult to track down. Most players won't unless they actually try and play the track backwards. Something that I found out about playing the track backwards way back in the day. Wow, there's a lot of collisions happening today. I don't think it helps that Waluigi and Mario are both trying to deck one another and are fighting each other actively throughout the entire course. Thank you for the quick punchy punch there. Nearly hit a bomb. But, I don't know. There's something about Mario Kart's tracks that have always kind of intrigued me. There's a level of coherency to them that makes you feel that they are part of a larger world. Whether it's the little detail of seeing Daisy Cruiser in the back of Peach Beach and Yoshi's Circuit, whether it's seeing Mushroom City from above while on Rainbow Road. Every track is somehow connected to another one in a way that makes it feel unique, makes it feel fresh. It gives you the moment of that aha moment of, hey, I found something that really ties the world together. The reason I bring that up is because a lot of later games in the franchise tended to focus exclusively on the one track. Sure, you had Grumble Volcano and you had Coconut Mall and each of these areas on their own work. But the beautiful part about certain games and certain courses in this one specific game is that you get to see that this area is part of a larger lived-in world, not just a one-off. Anywho, we are now heading into the last quarter of the Mario Kart 100cc All Cup Tour. And by my math, we have Waluigi Stadium, we have Dino Jungle, Baby Park, and Rainbow Road left. And honestly, this is a really interesting and admittedly a weird smattering of courses, because Dino Jungle is one that could have more mechanical depth, but just doesn't it's one that leaves you wanting more, just a little bit. And then you have other courses like Waluigi Stadium, which some will say is just a diet Waluigi pinball. But to me, this defined the rally style tracks of Mario Kart in general. And rally style tracks have been around since pretty much forever. With, I believe there was a Wario Stadium in Mario Kart 64, which tried to do much of what Waluigi Stadium does, but, slightly differently. All hairpin, 90-degree turns, and that kind of stuff. It ended up being one that could have gone over well, but a lot of the time just didn't quite hit the mark, in my opinion. Waluigi Stadium has a lot more in terms of road hazards that made me really question what made the track difficult and how much of the course should be covered in hazards. Something that I believe many later courses, and especially Mario Kart 8, really leaned into. The idea that various courses should have road hazards, well, it is nothing new. It was brought about since the original Mario Kart. But the thing that I think a lot of the old Mario Karts get mixed up in is a lot of the older ones were trying to make the game more difficult by doing so. They weren't trying to make it necessarily more fun. And that's kind of the odd place that I put it. Anywho, Dino Jungle. I'm realizing I'm missing another course. Which one is it? Oh, Dry Desert. Dino Jungle is, as I said, one that doesn't really feel like it's a complete course. Now, part of this, I think, is because a lot of games tend to have a lot of development time focused on the beginning and a little bit less on the later stages of the game. As they get more used to the tools that they use to create a game, a lot of the time, games start losing or running out of time budget for the later portions. This is, I think, potentially what might have happened with Dino Jungle, because you have this track in the Special Cup between what is arguably the best track in the game, Wario Coliseum, and Bowser's Castle, one of the most memorable tracks in the game. And it just makes Dino Jungle feel a little bit forgettable by comparison. Not that it's a bad course, just it's too caught up in the rest of everything else. Anywho, I've been playing with the idea of continuing this series after the mirror mode runs. And part of that is that I want to try and do this with other games in the franchise. I'm looking at Mario Kart 64, which I ironically think will be a harder game to do this with. Mario Kart 64 has more exploitable tracks and AI, but the beauty of that simplistic AI is that more simplistic, more easy to understand AI really doesn't have as much room to let the player do just whatever. It has to be well thought out, well planned out. And it's really hard to make an AI that actively cheats more reasonable to beat without using items. We know this is a thing. It is well documented. And Mario Kart 64's AI and computer players do cheat. The question isn't if, but how much. So, my thought was to try and do that with not just Mario Kart 64, but see if it was possible with Mario Kart Wii and 8 Deluxe with the entire booster course pass, all without using items. Now, this does come with the caveat of each of these tracks, each of these course packs are going to feel a little bit weird, as I'll be comparing different courses to one another, as I already do, but in a way that is more consistent, if anything. This course was more interesting than this one because, and I think to start, I think I need to actually make a true 100% roster and statement of what each course was, in my opinion, in terms of enjoyability, especially given that Mario Kart Double Dash, I'm pretty sure this will be one of the last times I actually dig into the game. One of the last times that I will play the game start to finish without some alternative reasoning to get involved. Like, maybe pushing my young proteges to be stronger gamers and more resilient people as a whole. Anywho, that's my thought on that. Are there any other racing games that you think I should get involved in and see if I can make this challenge go a little bit further? Or have I already pushed it to its absolute limit? Let me know down below. And while you're there, drop a like, leave a subscribble, and let's get back to it. Anywho, Dry Desert, the very last track aside from Rainbow Road, and the one that I said was possibly the weakest in the game. And I want to preface my statement of it potentially being the weakest in the game by also stating that this is by no means a bad course. It is just a weak course by comparison to the rest of the course pack. Now, Dry Desert has effectively 4 road hazards in a otherwise rather simple loop. You have the cacti, the tornado, the piranha plant, or the piranha pit, and more cacti. As a result of these rather easy to dodge, rather consistent road hazards, it becomes a course that, while it is enjoyable in small doses, is one that often ended up with me feeling like it was just, hooray, I'm at the end of the course, I'm at the end of the Mushroom Cup. And while I don't mind it, the fact that one of the biggest hooray moments I had was just, oh, I'm at the end of the Mushroom Cup, tells me that this wasn't as great of a course as some of the other ones would have been. It didn't have that, oh yeah, let's do this, it's Dino Jungle, or it's Rainbow Road, or it's Yoshi's Circuit. It didn't have any of that. It just has a rather simplistic desert theme, which, honestly, desert-themed racetracks really don't tend to do all that well in Mario Kart to begin with, in my opinion. Ooh, well-placed punch there. Anywho, we are heading in to the final course of Double Dash once again, Rainbow Road. And this marks the last of the 100cc courses. You've seen that I have blitzed through all 16 courses in first place. It's no surprise that it's effectively done now. But with 160 points, Rainbow Road really ends up being a victory lap more than an actual course, more than an actual race at this point. I could let Mario, Luigi, Waluigi, and Paratroopa duke it out for second, but I mean, what's the fun in that? So I'm going to continue doing what I do. And maybe let Koopa Troopa punch a couple people on the way, because that's still allowed. But one of the things I think makes this course this course is one of those courses that doesn't have the same weight associated with it as other courses in Mario Kart Double Dash do for me. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, it gets to a point where near the end of the game, this becomes more of a formality. Typically, you are either going to be more than good enough and you are just doing this course because you have to do it to finish off everything, or you're doing this course because it is your last-ditch effort to get first place. But the number of times you have to do this as a last-ditch effort for first place will dwindle the more you play the game. What starts off as a very tense, albeit very fun and high-energy course ends up feeling either too tense or like there's no tension at all. And that's a really big shame for a course as bright, colorful, and unique as this. I don't know very many games that would take the idea of a rainbow and push it into a race course. Obviously, every single Mario Kart did do that. But Rainbow Road has always been designed as this penultimate challenge. This course that's meant to be really good for players that know what they're doing and really hard for players that don't. Remember back in Mario Kart Wii days, last day of high school, we decided, you know what, let's have a tournament. I had a guy come up and say, hey, I'd love to challenge you to Rainbow Road because I know I'm going to lose, but at least I'm going out with a bang. Sure enough, the individual played against me, and I said I wasn't going easy. I had no intention of it. But I would take his honesty and upfront mentality, and that I was going to carry that with me for the rest of the tournament. He ended up losing first round. I'm not lying about that. But the thing is that he came at it with this level of, I'm going to do it on a hard course because this to me is the finale. This is what it will mean. And I kind of respect that. Anyway, with this, the 100cc All Cup Tour of Mario Kart Double Dash is officially complete. And with that, next time we crack into the 150cc run of Mario Kart Double Dash All Cup Tour. And provided everything goes the way I hope, we'll be beginning the next section of the challenge, Mirror Mode. Easily the bane of most players' existence when it comes to really dialing in a racetrack. Anywho, that's all for now. Have a good one.